Hello, my friends, and welcome back. Thank you very much for being with me again today. New York Times came with an article yesterday talking about the West not wanting peace in Ukraine. This article was taken by other media outlets and promoted. Now, I don't know why after 11 months of war in Ukraine, only now the New York Times realizes that the West does not want peace in Ukraine. And that coincides with the statements of the United States and Germany made by their leaders that they will provide Ukraine with armored vehicles and other heavy weapons. Obviously, there's been in the talks some deliveries of tanks, which will happen. I have, I'm a few months ahead of New York Times, and I don't think they really did not know that. But anyway, they come now and say, well, you know what, maybe by that, the West doesn't really want war. Well, what changed? What changed? Because if you send a armored vehicle versus a howitzer or a HIMARS, you can't just say that oh, that's a game changer here. After all, you send equipment to kill other people. So why before sending these particular weapons, the West, before they wanted peace or peaceful solution, now all of a sudden they don't? Is it too late? Is it enough? Some elites consider that they made enough money and they don't want to rock the boat too much. I don't know yet, but could be all of the above. So let's see what this Al Mayadeen says about the New York Times article. This comes from yesterday. Actually, this is from today, but the article, I think it came yesterday in New York Times. West does not desire peace in Ukraine, New York Times. As the US, France and Germany plan to send 3 different kinds of armored vehicles to Kiev, it is clear that the West in no way intends to encourage peace in Ukraine, according to New York Times. A report issued by the New York Times said that the latest round of military assistance to Ukraine from the US, France and Germany, you can add Poland, Finland and others, because I already have I have the tabs on them. They already said they will send tanks. Indicates clearly that the West in no way wants to encourage peace talks between Russia and Ukraine and is rather pushing for more offensive to be unleashed against Moscow amid the latest delivery of armored vehicles to Kiev. Yesterday, in its latest aid package to Kiev, the White House said it intends to supply Ukraine with 50 Bradley vehicles for the first time ever. Scholz said that he will send his Madres, or whatever, Marder, infantry fighting vehicles and the Patriot air defense systems. France said will send their light tanks as well, and what can I say? Here they're going to send $3.75 billion in aid, which would include 50 Bradley fighting vehicles, 500 TOW anti-tank missiles, this is just the Americans, and 250,000 rounds of 22mm ammunition, and will also include 100 M113 armored personnel carriers, 55 mine-resistant ambush-protected vehicles, 13 high-mobility multi-purpose wheeled vehicles, 70,000 155mm artillery rounds, 500 precision-guided 155mm artillery rounds, and 1,200 155mm artillery rounds of the remote anti-armor mine system. So they will send also here 36 towed howitzers, 95,000 105mm artillery rounds, mortar rounds, 10,000 additional ammunition for HIMARS, and approximately 2,000 anti-armor rockets. So this is just United States in the 3 billion aid package. For me at least, this was obvious that the West is not supporting Ukraine. The West is supporting itself, and it's not the West, it is the United States of America who's the organizer and the leader of all this. And other countries will benefit out of this because they have to protect their way of life, the way business is conducted on this planet. And they have to make sure that their dominance, hegemony, still stands on. Unfortunately, there are some other interests on this planet that seems to have the power to oppose this and request changes. The United States is not willing to allow other, how should I put it, powers to come to the power table. So they have to elbow themselves in. I'm talking about Russia and China. Remember, Great Britain, France, Germany, these are just beneficiaries of the American hegemony. If they would be left alone by the United States, they will have much less influence, if they have any right now, on the planetary structures or dynamics. The thing is, Ukraine is caught in between. No, it's not caught, because if you think that Ukraine was not planned, which I'm talking about what happened since February 24th, then you got to look back into history and see the preparations. Everything led to a confrontation like this and more between the United States and Russia. I don't want to start, pointing fingers at, the West is 100% guilty, Russia is 100% innocent. And I'll tell you why. Because neither side is an angel. Both sides are countries with global interests. So if, let's say, United States is gone, someone else would fill the void. And you might argue that someone else might behave differently, but I doubt that. And I tell you why. Because that someone else is also led by humans. And humans act in general the same way. And I'm telling you, look at the great empires, if you want to go to that, or the great countries, or maybe I should not use the word great because it could be interpreted like oh my God, but strong countries, the strong countries that invaded other countries and they became empires, and they left something behind. At times they were, they had obviously personal interest, community interest, country, national interest, and then they started, bringing all kind of values, and then they all collapse, because that's their if you're aware of the cycle of civilization, that's I think 9 steps, and if you look back in history again, you can look that they very obediently followed those steps, and we are in I think in the 8th stage of collapse, or in the 9th. We got one more and that will be the end of it, but the signs are that we are in the 8th, I think. And again, we might say, well, you see, Russia, if Russia would lead the world, the world would be a better place. I don't think so. It might be for maybe a decade, until it realize, the people leading Russia will realize that they have unchecked power. And when you have unchecked power, you become yourself. You allow yourself to show who you really are. We are like this, more or less, and then become tyrannical. It's just the way we're wired. Some people say, no, we are just different. Well, I hope we find that to be true, but if you look back in history, the examples of great powers who were benevolent do not exist. Why? Because a great power was formed with the sword and the knives and all that. It was not everybody wanted to be around, unless you want to be around against another guy. When you become up, look at the United States of America. It starts as colonies, right? They got together and they fought the British, right? And they wrote a beautiful, beautiful constitution with beautiful, beautiful Bill of Rights that are just slashed nowadays. I mean, they've been slashed since its inception anyway. And then look what happened. Look what they did when they got the power. Now, after 1945, when really United States got the power, it was checked by the other side. That's why it really couldn't do everything it wanted. It did in its neighborhood, as the Soviets did in their neighborhood. And then they collided in Korea, they collided in Vietnam, and in other places that we might never know. The fact is, after 1991, this benevolent, beautiful country, United States of America, became unchecked. And we can see the results of that. An illegal bombardment of Yugoslavia, an invasion of a sovereign country, I'm not going to say more, based on some kind of information that were not there, and that's Iraq, then Afghanistan. Then you saw what happened in Libya, how Gaddafi was slain like a rat. I'm not putting any, how should I put it, judgment how he should have been, dispatched, but not like that. That shows us that we are, as we were, 3 or 4 or 5,000 years back, the same. And people say, well, that was the Libyan people. Well, you know how that was, right? You know who got that guy cornered, who found him, who called to come, who came over, and who videotaped that. It's all evidence over there that you have. It was not like spontaneously they found him over there, the people, the anger of the people, and then they acted like animals. You can say, well, they were angry. Oh, I'm angry all the time, but I don't act like that. Why? I have self-respect. Well, we don't have that kind of anger. Even with Ceausescu, and Ceausescu was slain like a rat by the orders of some other ones on the 25th of December, Christian Day, right? The birth of Christ. The Romanians killed him. Well, we were happy about it, but we didn't like, really, the 25th, and that was a court, it was a tribunal. I mean, I was young, very young at that time, and I knew something was up. When I watched those, I said, that's not a court, and I was a teenager, right? Imagine an adult would be like, well, what's going on here? Why do we do this? So we knew that it was unfair, and it was a rat-like execution. So anyway, this war in Ukraine gets into the, I would say, the final stage where the Westerners are dropping everything they have, and airplanes and tanks are next. I have no, no reason to believe that they will not. I am 99.9% that tanks are there already, and airplanes will be next if necessary, if they need it. If they are needed. And then, I don't know, troops on the ground, I think they are, could be under the masks of volunteering troops. I'm a military, but I'm a volunteer. I sign the papers, I'm a volunteer. But then the other papers are at home with me being part of other, if you know what I mean. So, we'll see. How do you think Russia takes this? Russia takes this as being us against those guys who want to destroy us. So when they think that way, and they give Vladimir Putin, 78-79% approval rating, what do you think? What do you think? And if Russia loses, what do you think Russia is going to do based on that popular support? I'm talking about the leaders. Huh? Do you think they're just going to say, yeah, okay, we're going to let history call us losers and Ukraine beat us? And they're not going to let that happen. They can't live with that stain that will be pushed on the Russian national conscience every day by their enemies. That's how they consider these guys. But anyway, tanks are next, guarantee you that. Thank you very much for being with me again today. Stay strong, stay smart, look for the truth, and be just.